Have you ever found yourself saying, I don't know why I feel this way? One moment you're perfectly fine, and the next, you're anxious, frustrated, or just emotionally drained for no clear reason. You smile on the outside, but feel like a storm is brewing inside. Your mind races with thoughts you wish you could silence. And no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to break free from this emotional roller coaster. But what if I told you there's a way out? What if you could actually understand your emotions, take control of them, and live with clarity, calmness, and power? Welcome to the Audio Quill, where we turn life-changing books into real-world transformation. Today, we are diving into Master Your Emotions by Thibaut Meurisse, a simple yet incredibly powerful guide that shows you how to stop being a slave to your emotions and finally take charge of your inner world. If you've ever wished for peace of mind, better relationships, or more emotional strength, this summary might just be the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Let's begin. Section 1. What are emotions really? Let's begin with the most basic yet misunderstood question. What are emotions really? According to Thibaut Meurisse, emotions are nothing more than internal signals. They are messengers, your mind and body's way of communicating with you. Think of emotions like the warning lights on a car's dashboard. When your fuel is low or the engine is overheating, a light flashes not to scare you, but to alert you that something needs attention. Emotions work the same way. When you feel fear, your brain is signaling danger. When you feel anger, it's pointing toward a boundary being crossed. When you feel sadness, it could mean you've lost something meaningful or feel disconnected. But here's where most of us go wrong. We treat emotions like enemies. We try to suppress them, ignore them, or numb them with distractions, scrolling endlessly on our phones, overeating, avoiding hard conversations. We do everything except listen to what the emotion is trying to tell us. Meurisse invites us to take a different approach. Instead of resisting your emotions, acknowledge them. Instead of reacting blindly, observe them. Become a curious scientist studying your own internal world. When you start to see emotions as messages, not threats, you create space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies your power. You realize you don't have to be ruled by anger. You don't have to drown in anxiety. You can feel an emotion fully, learn from it, and then let it go. In short, emotions aren't a problem. Our relationship with our emotions is what truly needs healing. That's the first step toward emotional mastery, changing the way you see your feelings. Section 2. The root of emotional suffering. So now that we understand what emotions are, let's go deeper. If emotions are just signals, then why do they often feel so heavy, painful, and overwhelming? According to Thibaut Meurisse, the real problem isn't the emotions themselves. It's how we interpret them, and more importantly, how we identify with them. Here's what that means. Most people don't just experience a thought like, I failed. They absorb it and believe it as, I am a failure. That single shift from observing the thought to becoming the thought is the root of emotional suffering. We don't just feel sadness, we think, I shouldn't be sad, or I'll always feel this way, which adds another layer of resistance and guilt. We don't just feel anger, we judge ourselves for it, bottle it up, or let it explode in ways we later regret. Meurisse explains that our mind creates stories around these emotions. Stories we've been repeating for years. I'm not good enough. People always leave me. I can't handle this. And the more we repeat these stories, the more they become part of our identity. That's when emotions stop being temporary messengers and start becoming permanent prisons. But here's the breakthrough idea. You're not your emotions. You're not even your thoughts. You're the awareness behind those thoughts. The quiet observer watching them come and go like clouds in the sky. This realization can change everything. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, their power over you begins to fade. You stop reacting automatically and start responding consciously. This space between stimulus and response, this awareness, is where emotional freedom lives. Think about it. A thought like, I'm not good enough, might still arise. But instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you can pause and say, that's an old pattern. I see it, but I don't have to believe it. That's not just mental strength. That's emotional mastery. Meurisse calls this process mental disidentification. The ability to step back from your internal narrative and realize, I am not my story. I am not my past. I am not this temporary emotion. Once you begin to practice this, suffering begins to dissolve. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop making every emotion a personal crisis. You learn to observe, accept, and let go. That's the power of shifting from emotional reaction to emotional awareness. And it's one of the core teachings in Master Your Emotions. Section 3. Awareness is your superpower. If you take just one lesson from this book, let it be this. Awareness is your superpower. Yes, more powerful than motivation, intelligence, or even willpower. Because without awareness, you're just reacting on autopilot. But with awareness, you gain control. Let's break that down. Every emotion you feel, anger, fear, guilt, anxiety, usually comes with a trigger. Something happens, and before you know it, you're flooded with emotion. Maybe someone criticizes your work and instantly you feel defensive. Maybe your partner doesn't respond to your message and your mind starts racing with thoughts like, they don't care, or I'm not important. But here's the thing. You don't have to follow every emotional impulse. You can pause, breathe, and observe. That moment of non-reactivity, that split-second gap where you notice the emotion instead of becoming it, is where your true power lies. Thibaut Meurisse emphasizes that this gap is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained. And once you start practicing awareness, everything begins to shift. Instead of saying, I'm angry, you say, I notice anger is rising within me. That simple language shift distances you from the emotion. You're not denying it. You're witnessing it. This is mindfulness in action. And when you approach emotions with curiosity instead of judgment, they lose their grip on you. Here's a practical exercise from the book you can try today. The next time you feel a strong emotion, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What exactly am I feeling right now? 2. What triggered this emotion? 3. What story am I telling myself about it? You'll be surprised how often the trigger is small, but the story you attach to it creates a huge emotional reaction. For example, someone cutting you off in traffic might trigger a spike of anger. But the story might be, people always disrespect me, or I'm invisible. See the difference? The event is small, but the story fuels the emotion. And once you become aware of that story, you can rewrite it. This is what awareness allows. The power to choose your response instead of being a puppet of your past conditioning. You go from being a victim of your emotions, to the master of them. And over time, you'll notice something beautiful. The more you practice awareness, the less power negative emotions have over you. They may still arise, but they won't control you. You'll feel grounded, calm, and in control, even when the world around you feels chaotic. That's why Meurisse calls awareness the foundation of emotional mastery. Because when you become aware, you reclaim your freedom. Section 3. Awareness is your superpower. If you take just one lesson from this book, let it be this: awareness is your superpower. Yes, more powerful than motivation, intelligence, or even willpower. Because without awareness, you're just reacting on autopilot. But with awareness, you gain control. Let's break that down. Every emotion you feel, anger, fear, guilt, anxiety, usually comes with a trigger. Something happens, and before you know it, you're flooded with emotion. Maybe someone criticizes your work and instantly you feel defensive. Maybe your partner doesn't respond to your message and your mind starts racing with thoughts like, they don't care, or I'm not important. But here's the thing: you don't have to follow every emotional impulse. You can pause, breathe, and observe. That moment of non-reactivity, that split-second gap where you notice the emotion instead of becoming it, is where your true power lies. Thibaut Meurisse emphasizes that this gap is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained. And once you start practicing awareness, everything begins to shift. Instead of saying, I'm angry, you say, I notice anger is rising within me. That simple language shift distances you from the emotion. You're not denying it, you're witnessing it. This is mindfulness in action. And when you approach emotions with curiosity instead of judgment, they lose their grip on you. Here's a practical exercise from the book you can try today. The next time you feel a strong emotion, ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What exactly am I feeling right now? 2. What triggered this emotion? 3. What story am I telling myself about it? You'll be surprised how often the trigger is small, but the story you attach to it creates a huge emotional reaction. For example, someone cutting you off in traffic might trigger a spike of anger. But the story might be, people always disrespect me, or I'm invisible. See the difference? The event is small, but the story fuels the emotion. And once you become aware of that story, you can rewrite it. This is what awareness allows: the power to choose your response instead of being a puppet of your past conditioning. You go from being a victim of your emotions to the master of them. And over time, you'll notice something beautiful. The more you practice awareness, the less power negative emotions have over you. They may still arise, but they won't control you. You'll feel grounded, calm, and in control, even when the world around you feels chaotic. That's why Meurisse calls awareness the foundation of emotional mastery. Because when you become aware, you reclaim your freedom. Section 4. Rewriting your emotional patterns. So far, we've learned what emotions really are. We've uncovered how identifying with them causes suffering. And we've seen how awareness gives us the power to step back and choose our response. But now comes the next level of emotional mastery: rewriting the patterns that keep us stuck. Because here's the hard truth: most of us are living on emotional autopilot. We keep reacting the same way over and over. Not because that reaction is helpful, but because it's familiar. These emotional patterns were often formed in childhood. Maybe you were told not to cry, so now you suppress your sadness. Maybe you were only praised when you achieved something, so now you tie your worth to your success. Or maybe you saw anger used as power, so now you unconsciously repeat the same. These patterns become neural highways in your brain. And every time you repeat a reaction, getting jealous, shutting down, overthinking, you strengthen that path. But just like any habit, emotional patterns can be retrained. Thibaut Meurisse shows us how. Step 1. Identify the pattern. The first step is awareness. Notice when you're stuck in an emotional loop. Ask yourself, what situations trigger this reaction? What emotion do I feel most often? Anger, guilt, fear, shame. What belief is hiding behind that emotion? For example, if you always feel anxious in social settings, the hidden belief might be, I'm not good enough, or people are judging me. Step 2. Interrupt the pattern. The moment you notice the pattern, pause. This is key. Even taking one deep breath or saying to yourself, this is just an old reaction, I don't have to follow it, is enough to interrupt the emotional circuit. You don't need to force yourself to feel great. Just stop feeding the story. That's fueling the emotion. Step 3. Install a new belief. Once you've interrupted the old reaction, create a new one. Instead of reacting from the belief, I'm not good enough, practice telling yourself, I am enough just as I am. I choose peace over perfection. It's safe to be seen and heard. You're not just saying empty affirmations. You're rewiring your emotional blueprint. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your brain will build new pathways, ones that lead to confidence, calmness, and clarity. Step 4. Be patient and consistent. Rewriting emotional patterns is not an overnight fix. You've had years, maybe decades, of conditioning. So give yourself grace. Celebrate the small wins. Each time you pause instead of reacting, you're breaking the cycle. Each time you choose a better thought, you're planting a seed for emotional growth. And slowly, you'll notice. You're not as triggered by the same things. You feel more grounded, more centered, more like the person you've always wanted to be. Because at the end of the day, emotional mastery isn't about never feeling bad. It's about not getting trapped by the same emotional scripts. And when you take control of your patterns, you take control of your life. Section 5. Emotional triggers and the pain reward system. To master your emotions, it's not enough to just be aware of them or to interrupt negative patterns. You also need to understand what's driving them beneath the surface. That's where Thibaut Meurisse introduces a powerful concept, the pain reward system. At its core, your brain is wired to do two things: avoid pain and seek pleasure. It's a survival mechanism. This system kept our ancestors alive by pushing them away from danger, like predators or starvation, and pulling them toward rewards like food, safety, or connection. But in today's modern world, the dangers are rarely physical. They're emotional. Rejection, judgment, failure, loneliness. And yet, our brain reacts to these emotional triggers as if they were life or death situations. Let's take a simple example. Say you post something on social media and no one responds. Logically, it's not a big deal. But emotionally, it might trigger a deep fear. I'm not liked, or I'm invisible. That emotional discomfort is pain, and your brain wants to escape it. So what does it do? It reaches for a reward. You might scroll endlessly on your phone, binge watch a show, eat something sweet, or seek external validation. These quick fixes give your brain a little dopamine hit, a chemical reward, but they never solve the emotional issue underneath. Meurisse explains that this cycle of emotional trigger, pain, reward-seeking behavior becomes an unconscious loop, and the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes. The problem? Most of our rewards are short-term pleasures that create long-term consequences. You avoid rejection, but become socially anxious. You numb sadness with food, but feel worse after. You silence anger, but carry it like poison inside. So how do you break the loop? Step 1. Recognize the trigger. Whenever you feel an emotional shift, pause and ask yourself, what just happened? What was said, seen, or remembered that activated this emotional response? Identifying the exact moment of the trigger is the first step to regaining control. Step 2. Understand the pain. Look deeper. What fear or belief is attached to this emotion? Sometimes the pain isn't obvious. A small rejection might tap into a deep belief like, I'm not worthy. A missed goal might stir up, I'll never be enough. By naming the pain, you reduce its power. Step 3. Choose a conscious reward. Instead of falling into a self-destructive reward, like distractions or overindulgence, consciously choose a healthy, empowering response. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you journal the emotion instead of suppressing it. Maybe you call a trusted friend, take deep breaths, or repeat a positive truth. You're not ignoring the emotion. You're just breaking the pain reward autopilot. Over time, this new pattern creates emotional strength. You teach your brain that discomfort isn't dangerous, that you can feel an emotion without being controlled by it, and that true rewards, peace, growth, confidence, come from within. That's how you escape the emotional roller coaster. Not by numbing your feelings, but by understanding your triggers and reclaiming your response. Because once you learn to recognize the emotional traps your brain sets, you stop being the puppet and start becoming the master. Section 6. The power of beliefs. At the very heart of your emotional world, beneath every reaction, every pattern, every trigger, lies something incredibly powerful, yet often invisible. Your beliefs. Thibaut Meurisse says this clearly. Your emotions are not just caused by what happens to you. They're shaped by what you believe about what happens to you. Let that sink in. Two people can face the exact same situation, but respond with completely different emotions. Why? Because they're filtering reality through different belief systems. Let's say someone doesn't respond to your message. If your belief is, people don't care about me, you'll feel rejected, hurt, even angry. But if your belief is, people get busy, is not personal, you'll feel calm, patient, and maybe even forget about it. Same event, different belief, completely different emotion. That's the power of beliefs. They shape not only how we see the world, but how we feel about it. Now here's the important part. Most of your core beliefs were formed when you were young, before you had the awareness to question them. Maybe a parent criticized you and you started to believe, I'm not good enough. Maybe you were compared to someone else and now you think, I have to prove myself to be loved. Maybe you failed once and it became, I'm a failure. Over time, these beliefs became subconscious. They operate in the background like a silent script. And because they feel so familiar, you rarely stop to ask, is this belief even true? Meurisse reminds us, just because you've believed something for a long time doesn't make it a fact. So if your emotions are intense or repetitive, trace them back. Ask yourself, what belief is creating this feeling? Where did it come from? Is it serving me or sabotaging me? Once you uncover the belief, you have a choice. You can keep living from that old script, or you can replace it with something empowering. For example, replace "I'm not good enough" with "I am growing and evolving every day." Replace "people will leave me" with "I am worthy of love and connection." Replace "I can't handle this" with "I am stronger than I think." And remember, changing beliefs isn't about pretending. It's about rewriting the emotional story you've been telling yourself for years. The more you affirm a new belief, the more your mind starts to accept it. And slowly, your emotional landscape begins to transform. Because once your beliefs change, your reactions change. Your triggers lose power. Your confidence grows. And your life starts to reflect your inner truth, not your old fears. That's the true power of belief. It's not just a thought, it's the foundation of how you feel, how you act, and who you become. Section 7. Mastering emotions through habits. By now, you've discovered the root of your emotional life. The triggers, the patterns, the beliefs. But here's the key that locks in everything you've learned so far. Your habits. Thibaut Meurisse emphasizes that emotional mastery is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Because emotions don't change just by reading a book or having an insight. They change when your habits change. Let's face it, your emotional state is often a reflection of what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally. Think about it. If you constantly check your phone first thing in the morning, you may be starting your day with anxiety or distraction. If you complain often, your brain starts to wire itself for negativity. If you stay up late, eat poorly, and don't move your body, your baseline mood naturally drops. So the question becomes, what habits are feeding your negative emotions? And what small shifts can you make today to support emotional strength? Meurisse shares that the fastest way to change how you feel is to change what you repeatedly do. Let's go over a few powerful habits you can build. 1. Daily emotional check-ins. Start your day by asking, how am I feeling right now? What emotion is dominant? Is this emotion helping me or holding me back? The simple act of checking in builds awareness, and awareness builds control. 2nd, gratitude practice. One of the most effective emotional habits is to write down 3 things you are grateful for every day. Why? Because gratitude trains your mind to look for the good. It flips your focus from lack to abundance, from problems to progress. And the more grateful you become, the harder it is to feel anger, fear, or despair. 3rd, movement and breath. Your physical body is deeply connected to your emotional state. When you feel low, your posture drops, your breathing becomes shallow. But when you move, when you stretch, walk, dance, or just breathe deeply, your emotions begin to shift instantly. In just 2 minutes of conscious breathing, you can go from chaos to calm. Don't underestimate the power of the body to shift the mind. 4. Positive input. Protect your emotional energy like it's gold. Be mindful of what you consume. News, social media, conversations. Ask yourself, is what I'm watching, reading, or listening to lifting me up or dragging me down? Surround yourself with content, people, and habits that reflect the emotions you want to live in. Peace, clarity, confidence. 5th, evening reflection. Before going to bed, take 2 minutes to reflect. What emotions dominated my day? What triggered them? How did I respond? And what can I do differently tomorrow? This reflection turns your day into a lesson. It turns random emotional moments into intentional growth. In the end, mastering your emotions isn't about controlling every feeling. It's about creating a system of habits that keep you grounded, no matter what life throws your way. It's not dramatic, it's not flashy, but it's real, and it works. As Meurisse puts it, success, emotional, mental, and personal, is simply the result of consistent daily actions. So choose your habits wisely. Because the emotions you live with tomorrow depend on the choices you make today. Section 8. Emotional independence. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning feeling calm and centered. Someone criticizes you, but you don't spiral into self-doubt. Plans get cancelled, but your happiness remains untouched. This isn't fantasy. This is what emotional independence looks like. And according to Thibaut Meurisse, it is the ultimate goal of emotional mastery. But what is emotional independence really? It's the ability to generate and regulate your emotional state without depending on external circumstances. It means your peace doesn't crumble just because someone disapproves of you. Your self-worth isn't shaken by a bad day, a harsh comment, or a missed opportunity. Meurisse explains that most people live in what he calls emotional slavery. They constantly react to the world around them. If someone praises them, they feel good. If someone ignores them, they feel rejected. If something goes wrong, they crumble emotionally. Their feelings are like a yo-yo, controlled by what's happening outside of them. But here's the truth. Anything that can be taken from you was never real freedom. And when your emotions depend on other people or unpredictable events, you're not free. You're trapped. Emotional independence, on the other hand, comes from within. It's not about being emotionless or detached. It's about having the inner strength and self-awareness to choose how you feel, regardless of what's going on around you. For example, someone offends you. You pause, breathe, and choose not to take it personally. You fail at something. You feel disappointed, but you learn and move forward without beating yourself up. You feel a wave of sadness. You allow it to pass without judging or escaping it. You begin to treat emotions as temporary visitors, not permanent truths. And most importantly, you stop waiting for the world to give you permission to feel good. You start creating that feeling from the inside out, through clarity, purpose, and presence. Meurisse encourages us to build emotional independence like we would build a muscle, through small, consistent choices. Every time you take responsibility for how you feel, every time you pause instead of react, every time you choose growth over blame, you're building that independence. And soon, the same things that used to shake you won't even touch you. The same people who once controlled your emotions will no longer have that power. Because when you master your emotions, you master your world. And emotional independence isn't just strength, it's freedom. The kind of freedom that no one can give you and no one can take away. Conclusion: you are in charge. So what have we really learned? That emotions aren't the enemy. They're not weaknesses, not signs of failure, not something to suppress or escape. They are signals, messengers from your inner world, trying to show you what needs healing, what needs attention, and what needs to grow. You've learned how awareness, beliefs, triggers, and habits shape your emotional experience. You've seen how powerful it can be to break old patterns and choose new responses. You've uncovered that emotional independence isn't a distant goal. It's a skill you can build every single day. But here's the final truth that Thibaut Meurisse wants you to remember. You are in charge. Not your past, not your pain, not other people's opinions. You. You get to decide how much power a thought has. You get to decide whether an emotion becomes your prison or your fuel. You get to decide what story you tell yourself and who you become because of it. Emotional mastery isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming present. It's about choosing to respond instead of react, to grow instead of retreat, to own your mind, your mood, your moment. And you don't need to do it all at once. Start small. Start with awareness. Start by catching that one negative thought. Start by choosing gratitude when it's hard. Start by breathing when emotions run high. Each small shift is a message to yourself that says, I matter. My peace matters. And I am no longer a victim of my emotions. Because at the end of the day, your emotional state isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you create, and you are more powerful than you've been led to believe. If this message resonated with you, if you felt even a small shift in your thinking today, then help us grow this community of inner strength and emotional mastery. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and don't forget to subscribe to the Audio Quill for more powerful audiobook summaries and life-changing insights. Your journey to mastering your emotions has already begun. Now take the next step and never look back. We'll see you in the next video.